On today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at the modeled guidance. Over the past 24 hours since I made yesterday's video, we have seen the models really begin to show a more wintry solution. So we're going to be talking all about that, more specifically for the eastern United States. It's kind of ironic that here in mid-March we expect probably the most wintry pattern that we've seen all winter long, and it's not even meteorological winter anymore. So it's kind of just a very weird 2023 so far. I almost said 2022 there. It's still so weird to me. As we go through this, we're going to start with our European model. We're actually just going to jump straight to our GFS model after this, and then we're going to get into the total precipitation, total snowfall at the end. Just because I want to directly compare this European model to our European model, the GFS model, better yet. And we can see our low developing here. This is the same one that caused bad, severe weather underneath here. And today, we also expect some in this region here. Maybe even for some of your southeast as well, with this little line here. So this is as we're reaching into tomorrow, very, very early morning, maybe 12 a.m., something like that, 1 a.m. And we see this low eventually transfers offshore as we reach into tomorrow noontime, kind of tomorrow morning. Then we see a bit of a snowstorm here for New England. This is going to bring a good 6 to 10 inches of snowfall to a lot of folks, and then it innocently slides off. Afterwards, we're kind of left with a quieter pattern for a brief period, and then we get what I would call a weaker storm here, 1,002 millibar low pressure center. So we see kind of this trailing cold front, maybe. That looks to be maybe a cold front, but hardly. Maybe some thunderstorms and showers underneath, but generally a quieter pattern through the 7th, 8th, 9th. And then what we get is some warmth pushing up for the west. And we begin to see these lows try to track southward and bring that cold with them. So that is the main catalyst here. And then what we see is this very deep trough, as you can see. And we see this warmth able to shove its way up west. And this is what's been missing all winter long. And what we're left with is a jet stream pattern like this. But this is headed eastward, so it's not just going to stay over the central United States. This is actually headed eastward. What we see is that it continues eastward, and now we're seeing a massive positive P&A pattern. Something like this is what we're seeing here. So there's a low pressure center there. So again, you get that cold front and warm front look right there, and that's what kind of dictates the jet stream. And we get an absolute gargantuan snowstorm in here with this low. Tons and tons of snowfall with this, and we've seen mixed solutions on what we can expect from these very strong nor'easter type snowstorms. This one is an inland cutter, and what that's going to mean is that a lot of areas on the coastal side of things, so that includes DC, Richmond, Philadelphia, New York, all those areas, Baltimore, would struggle with snowfall if the low is inland. But if this trends just a little bit eastward, we could see those coastal areas see a more snowy solution here, because there will be plenty of cold. Granted that this massive trough still shows up like this. This is about 200 hours out, but this has been a common and slow trend into this, and I certainly feel confident in it, just based on what the teleconnections have looked like, based on the fact that we've seen the model showing this for quite a while. And even through the 13th, we see this very, very cold air. So this has been a very long-term cold pattern that we're seeing here on the models. A little late, but it's here. Now, as we switch over to our GFS model, we see the same thing all the way through the 7th, 8th, 9th, and then look. We get that strong storm developing. We get a bit of a weaker look here on the GFS model, but there's no denying that the jet stream is doing this. And you can see that trough is there in the east, but it's a little bit weaker. And it all starts with the west. I've always talked about upstream, downstream as a great analogy. We see a miniature ridge here, whereas on the European model, we saw something much more dramatic. So by that same point, what we saw on the European model is this. So I want to just kind of compare and contrast here. So the jet stream is doing that on the European model. And obviously, when we look at the GFS model, which I'll do in red, no, it's going to be a little, I'll do it in yellow. This GFS model here, let me draw it on screen, is doing something more like this and like that. So you can tell it's a lot flatter. This trough is a little less prevalent, and that ridge is a little less prevalent. Massive ridge on the European model, very small ridge on the GFS, and that's what translates to the smaller trough in the east for the GFS and the larger trough in the east for the European. It all starts with the west, so that's kind of always been my rule of thumb, and it hasn't really steered me wrong when predicting these patterns. But we can see that eventually the GFS does come around right around the 14th, 15th, 16th, and look at what we get here. we get a very, very interesting deepening trough with a low pressure center right here. So we get this kind of a look of very strong low here. Plentiful amounts of cold working its way down the East Coast. And take this with a grain of salt. This is 300 plus hours out, but I have never seen such an intense looking snowstorm, especially not in March. So I think that's a 969 millibar low pressure center. So this would be up there with the biggest snowstorms. This would be up there with the greats, I guess is what you could say, all the way up the East Coast. Now, again, take that with a grain of salt, but I would like to look at the total snowfall for entertainment purposes here. And we can see that there is a good swath of 10 inches plus starting in southern Georgia all the way up through South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, the Delmarva, up through into New Jersey, and all the way into New England as well. So this swath here would be dealing with 10, 15, 20 inches. This would be a very, very comparative storm to that 2010 Boxing Day blizzard. That is what this would look like if this exact solution played out. But I can already tell you that in the model runs following this one that we're showing on screen, this does not look like this anymore. So it was a one-run thing, but I wanted to show this one in particular because we have that GFS showing, and all the other models really showing bigger snowstorms between the 10th and the 20th. And that's a period that we need to watch for 1 to 2 East Coast snowstorms. The European model showing 1, the GFS model showing 1 or 2 here. And we need to just continue to watch this closely because there seems to be the possibility of these nor'easter snowstorms. As there's enough cold to support something like this, it's just, will it come together? That's what we deal with when we see this level of cold. So certainly something to pay attention to. I don't think we will see this. Obviously, this is once in a lifetime type snowstorm, and it's 300 plus hours out. GFS is known for showing this type of thing. I've seen it show this type of a snowstorm in October, and obviously it never ends up happening that way. Now, as promised, let's take a look at that total precipitation as we always do. We see high amounts up here for the Northwest as storms move through this pocket here. We can tell that we're going to have storms moving here, here, and then later on in the model run, we're going to see them moving like this, which is when we're going to get the most potential for snowfall in these pockets here. That's really when we need to watch, and we see this translates here on the European model. We get large amounts for the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and Northeast here. That coastal Mid-Atlantic region does get cut off from that low being too close to the coast, as we mentioned, but it still does show snowfall in general for the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, Ohio Valley, and Great Lakes, just not these coastal and more southern regions of the Mid-Atlantic there. So definitely the most wintry look we've seen, again, through the entire winter, outside of maybe that period near Christmas time. This has been a very, very particular and very, very interesting winter to track with you guys. And this spring looks to start off even more interestingly. So things are going to just be crazy, guys. So be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day, and we will get to the bottom of all of this. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.